On the day of March 1st, 1932, Charles Lindbergh Jr., son of Charles Lindbergh and Anne Morrow Lindbergh, was tragically kidnapped out of his second-story nursery room in the Lindbergh estate between the times of 8:30 p.m. and 9 p.m. The nanny, Betty Gow, was the first to notice and alerted the two parents. In 1919, New York hotel owner Raymond Oring offered a $25,000 prize to whoever would complete the first nonstop flight across the Atlantic Ocean from the United States of America. This competition caught the eye of young aviator Charles A. Lindbergh. So, in the beginning of 1927, Charles gained the support and investment of 9 St. Louis investors to compete for the prize. Charles Lindbergh reached out to Ryan Airlines in San Diego to help him build and fly an airplane that he hoped to fly to win the prize money. To honor his investors and supporters, he named that plane the Spirit of St. Louis. On May 21st, 1927, Charles A. Lindbergh completed the first solo, non-stop transatlantic flight in history, making him a worldwide celebrity. Charles Lindbergh became a world-renowned hero who would then remain remembered and famous for many decades to come. His flight began the Lindbergh boom in the aviation industry, raising stocks and interest in aircraft transportation and popularizing planes worldwide. Charles Lindbergh then wrote his first book, titled We, in 1927. After that book was published, he continued on to write 6 more books following the first, then later in his life. Charles Lindbergh made over $250,000 in the first year or so after his book was published. Charles met his wife, Anne Morrow, in December of 1927 in Mexico City. They got married on May 27, 1929. Anne Morrow, now Anne Lindbergh, also wrote 8 books, and her first book sold over 5 million copies in its first 20 years of print. Anne and Charles Lindbergh were a very wealthy couple. They built their first house in 1931 on a secluded 300-acre property in the Sourland Mountain area near Hopewell, New Jersey. Together, Charles Lindbergh and Anne Morrow Lindbergh had their first son. Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr. was born in the home of his grandfather, Dwight W. Morrow, in Englewood, New Jersey on June 22, 1930. Charles Jr. lived in his parents' estate for the first 20 months of his life. Meanwhile, back in 1923, Bruno Richard Hampton immigrated into the United States of America illegally after 2 failed attempts of stowing away on a ship to New York. In March of 1932, Charles Lindbergh Jr. was taken from his home between the times of 8:30 and 9. The family then learned this when the nanny went to go check on Charles Jr. The nanny then told Charles and Anne Lindbergh about the missing child, and they called the cops immediately, who arrived at the scene urgently with the press not far behind.